pleasure and enjoyment. Okay, that was a little enjoyment for everyone. So you can see we had fun with the Measure Z signs out there, or even down the public. We actually did get a lot of honks. I don't know if they were for or against, but they honked. So, okay, welcome to the meeting tonight, June 2026, Mission Grove Neighborhood Alliance. Here's our territory again, and we cover Mission Grove, Canyon Crest, Sycamore Canyon, and into areas of the county. Here's the fire map again, which is always up there because now a lot of people have been put in the fire district for higher insurance. We want to welcome you. We want to thank Orange Terrace Community Center. If you're not getting our emails, please sign in with that handsome gentleman in the back with the new hat on. $12 a year if you want to be a voting member for 2026. We're still taking donations for our legal fund. We still have our court case for the gentleman that was picking up our signs. He's going to be arraigned for a second time on July 9th. Just second arraignment after the court reviewed the evidence and decided it was applicable to move forward with the case. He's been charged with a felony charge, and we'll see what happens. We will be there like we've been for all the rest of our hearings and arraignments. Meeting rules: respect one another. Raise your hand if you want to speak, and email us with any questions or so on afterwards. Here's a list again of the tours that we're looking to take. If anyone's interested in any of these tours, please let us know. We've got Corona Farms, Regional Metro Water Recycling Facility. Some of these places don't normally give tours, so we've been lucky to get them to allow us to give us a tour. We've got the Henry Mills plant, which is right over here in Alessandro. So if anyone's interested, please email us.
And the one we're going to add on to that is Ontario Airport's going to give us a behind-the-scenes tour. So we're working on scheduling that.
Yeah, Ontario, they're going to let us load baggage on the planes and everything.
Wasn't there an Amazon tour as well, I believe, on the website?
Amazon tour?
Yeah, there is an Amazon one. They started to give me a date, and they canceled it, so now we're working on trying to get that one back.
Trying to get another date. So if you're interested in these, let us know. 250 years is coming up, July 4th celebration for the country. Stars and Stripes forever. Program tonight, some general updates, some special updates. We've got Melissa here from the Water District. I don't know if we have anyone here from Fire. Anyone here from Fire? Light a trash can on fire, they'll show up. Okay, so we'll start then with Melissa. You got an update from us? Thank you.
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Melissa Bustamante. I'm here on behalf of Western Water. I have a few updates for everyone. I just wanted to update the group and remind you guys that we actually have our water use efficiency team coming next month. They're going to be hosting a table in the back and giving a presentation. They're going to be talking about how you can qualify for rebates, our programs, and talk about all things water use efficiency. They will also be giving out some giveaways too, so stay tuned for that. We also have our Metropolitan Water District Traveling Student Art Show. It's currently in our lobby, so it's open to the public. If you want to take the kids or the family, just go ahead and walk into our lobby Monday through Friday from now through June 22nd from 8 to 5 p.m. You can visit student artwork. They did really beautiful pieces, and it's about environmental stewardship with the water district. And then my last update that I have is our Water Sports 101 workshops. We have these free public workshops for the public. The next one that we have is Saturday, July 25th. It'll be at 10 a.m. They're on Saturdays. And that one's on leak identification. So if you have issues with leaks, you want to help, or you need help finding your leaks in your home, go to those workshops. They're free. They're easy to sign up. Just call our customer service line, or you can do it online on westernwaterca.gov/watersports101. And then I'm going to kick it off to our board member. She's currently here, Gracie Torres. She's going to talk a little bit about our annual water quality report. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi everyone, I'm Gracie Torres. I'm your representative for Western Municipal Water District. I have the chance to just update you on our annual water quality report. So it's our consumer confidence report. It will be available July 1st. So that includes all the water testing results as well as compliance information that the water district has to adhere to in order to serve you potable drinking water. And so we are going to release that July 1st. If you would like a hard copy, an actual physical copy, you can email outreach@wmwd.com and they will send you a report. Otherwise, you can find it online to see everything that we do to make sure that your water is fully compliant and perfectly fine to drink. So thank you so much. As always, you can reach me directly. My cell phone number is 951-970-8692, or you can email me at gtorres@wmwd.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Okay, we're going to have the police chief, Larry Gonzalez. He's on his way here from the airport, flying back from Sacramento, so he'll be here in a few minutes. Some general updates. We're going to talk about the election. We're going to talk a little bit more. We mentioned it last time about the Riverside Election Integrity Team that Brian and I have been on, the one that's been very controversial with the sheriff and everything. I'm going to kind of explain that in a little more detail. It's amazing when you're involved in it, how the media just runs off with stuff and never bothers to check to verify anything. Hardly any media has checked with us or asked us what was really, what we were really trying to do or what it was. So we've been called all kinds of stuff. The one that I loved, we were called, what was it?
Flat earthers.
Flat earthers. Hey, that's all right. There's a lot of people who used to believe that. Some are still do. So we're going to explain that one a little more. We're talking a little bit about the election and committees. Now, if any of you that are members that want to be part of any of our committees, public affairs or community affairs, please sing out, let us know. Talk to the gentleman in the back there at the table. And also, we've got our Mission Grove investigative reports will be coming out. We've got 2 new reports coming out. You'll see this page on the website, giving you an introduction to those. Advocacy reports. These are not accusing anyone of anything. These are just deep investigations above and beyond what have been done by others. This happens to be the March JPA. There were 2 reports done by the civil grand jury. We went deeper and looked into them even more deeper to find out what we could find out what was going on there. There's a whole story behind the March JPA and basically joint powers authorities as it is. Joint powers authorities are a way for 2 public jurisdictions to get together that have something common, like they want to build a dam or a road or whatever. So they create this joint powers authority, which basically gives them a lot of the same rights as a city or county has, but most people don't know they exist. So they have public meetings and so on, but hardly anybody shows up because they don't know what they are. So we encourage you to go online, look at these reports. A lot of time has been put into them, and they're very good and very detailed. So, Measure Z, this is the tally as of last night. The ballots have not been officially counted yet, finished, but we've got 52,000 that have been counted out of 55,000 that voted. No is about almost 60% of the vote so far. That's an excellent turnout for a midterm, especially the primary and the midterm. Just to show you a comparison, usually we're lucky if we get 20,000 or 30,000, but during the presidential election last 2 years ago for Measure L, which had to do with the auditor, there was 100,000 people in Riverside voted for that. But yet the city council still hasn't hired them.
Was the margin greater earlier?
It's been, the no has been edging up a little bit. It started at like 58, now it's up to 59. But it doesn't look like there's too many more ballots to count for this. But some of the other races, which is interesting to show you the turnouts for city council in Ward 2, they had 21,000 eligible voters. 7,200 voted for city council.
Oh, shoot.
And almost 8,000 voted totally. For Ward 4, there was 31,000 eligible voters and roughly 14,000 voted. 12,300 of those for city council. So that one was a lot more interesting. The last time we had a Ward 4 city council, I think there was a total of maybe 6,000 votes. So it's been almost double that. Ward 6 is the real disappointing one. They had 21,000 eligible voters, but only 4,700 voted. And out of that, 4,100 voted for city council.
And just to give you an update on Ward 6, latest tally is at 547. Luis Hernandez is at 50.31%. Oz is at 28.21, and Nora is at 21.48.
So that one might not be a
That may not be a runoff.
So the way the rules work, if anyone gets 50% plus 1 vote, they automatically are elected. 2 years ago, we had 3 wards running, 4 wards running. They all got into the primary because somebody got 50% plus 1. This is the first time anybody's gone ahead with 50% Ward 6. Wards 2 and 4 look like they're going to be a runoff in November. So that's a tribute to people coming out and voting and paying attention. The disappointing part with the whole voting thing was we had like 4 different things that were running for. I think several of them were in the state, and there were no one running against them. And that just baffles me. Not a soul was running against them. So if I'd have known that, I'd just put my name in for all of them.
I vote for you.
I would vote for you too.
Yeah, mine.
Natasha Johnson had no one running against her, but some kind of a write-in thing, and got 100 and, last I saw was 103 votes. And if my understanding is that there was over 100 on the write-in, now he's gonna be on the ballot in November.
Because he's the only other one that was running.
Yes.
Well, we understand that there was one county supervisor that didn't have anyone running against him. We understand there was a candidate, but he didn't fill out his paperwork correct. And by the time he found out, it was too late or something, so they wouldn't put his name on the ballot.
Yeah, they told him after the demo.
Yeah, after the day, he didn't fill it out. So, a lot of weird rules going on out there with this stuff. So, that's what Measure Z is at. Now, Measure Z came down with a no, which doesn't mean it goes away. The current Measure Z still stays in place. The 1%, and it expires in 2036 unless the voters come back and extend it. So, or we can go out with an initiative, and we can sign an initiative, get the signatures, and create a special tax, like we talked about, that would only be for emergency services and road repair, and we can put that on the ballot ourselves, special election. And we can also not only do that, but we can piggyback that signature for that initiative to include other things, like changing some of the rules that the city council goes by, other things that we might want to change. So we can do all those in one initiative, so, which is worth for us to think about. Yes?
Can you explain to me why you're encouraging a no on Measure Z?
Okay, yes, because Measure Z was put in place 10 years ago, and it was a general tax, which means that it goes into the general fund, and the city council can use it for anything they want. So even though they get advertised, and every measure that's been put up since 2010 always said it's for police and fire and police and emergency services and all this stuff, but they're general taxes. It goes in the general fund. There is absolutely nothing that says they have to use it for what they claim in the piece for, because it's a general tax, not a special tax. So that was one of the reasons. The other reason was they wanted to extend it indefinitely instead of putting an end date of 2036. Now, it doesn't mean it would end in 2036. It just means they have to come back to the voters and get approval and show that they've used the money wisely. They wanted to extend it indefinitely, which meant the voters would have had to have gone out, got signatures, got an initiative signed, then got a ballot measure created, and that would have cost the city and the voters a lot of money to do a special initiative just for that. So that was the main reasons. And they claimed it was for fire because they have a lot of things that they need more firefighters and engines and so on, which was true. But the problem is, in the last 10 to 20 years, they haven't done anything to improve it. They've been neglecting the fire department for 10 years or more. And so what made anyone think that they were going to suddenly spend the money on fire when it's a general tax? To show you what a general tax it is, they're using Measure Z money right now to spend $2.8 million to recondition, to refurbish the bottom floor on City Hall. And they're
And
gonna
spend
move,
200,000 to pass Measure Z.
what's that?
And spend 200,000 to pass Measure Z.
Well, yeah, the city also put up $195,000 to go out and do information things on Measure Z, and Yes on Measure Z raised about $150,000 to get you to vote yes for it, again, for a general tax that can be used for anything. So even though a lot of the ads said, this is why we need Measure Z because there's a fire, and the Measure Z had nothing to do with that. It's a general tax. It goes in the general fund, they use it for whatever they want. Yeah.
So, if I'm hearing you correctly, if Measure Z goes away.
It doesn't go away, it stays where it is.
So what you're trying to propose,
You mean if we did a special tax?
No, if it doesn't pass.
If it doesn't pass, it goes, stays where it is, which is a 1% tax. It just doesn't add the 0.25% that they want. They wanted to add a 0.25% to the tax, so the tax still stays the same, the 1% until 2036. And then it has to come back to the voters and decide whether we like the way they spend the money and want to continue to approve the tax. Now, we can stop the tax anytime we want to with an initiative. We don't need to wait till 2036. We can do an initiative and kill it. If they're not spending the money. Yeah, Mike.
An example, right when they passed it in 2016, everybody in the city got a big raise, and they spent about $20-some million backfilling pensions. So when they say we need police and fire, we're really just backfilling pensions and giving everybody a raise.
And the other thing they claim they're going to use it for roads. They paved 51 miles last year. They're going to do maybe 40 miles this year. If they average 40 miles a year, it'll take 25 years to repave the roads. The roads only last 7 to 10 years. They need to be doing 100 miles a year, which would cost about $120 million. Yeah.
How much did they collect off Measure C as it currently stands?
Currently, it's bringing in about 84 million, 86 million a year.
How
From-
much was projected?
45.
Twice as much.
So it's almost doubled since it started. And the new 0.25% tax would have 21 million more, but if it's going to anticipate it like the other one, that would double over a certain period of time too. So it doesn't mean it all goes away, it just means the 0.25% doesn't get added on unless we decide to change it to a special tax and do an initiative and make sure that it goes for fire and police and emergency services and road repairs and so on. And one of the issues with that was they said, well, in some places they do a special tax and they end up with a surplus of money and they can't use it for anything else. That would never happen because the roads alone needs $100 million. So you're never going to have too much. It's never going to exceed it if you include the road. And you can rank it. You can say that the money will first be spent for fire and police until they're 90% equipped. When they're 90% equipped, then you can start spending it on roads and road maintenance and so on. So you can tier it however you want to in the special tax language so that people know exactly where it's being spent. Then the only thing they'll have in there is they can allocate it. They'll have some leverage on allocating it within those parameters. But they wouldn't be able to go out and spend it on pickleball courts or something like that. So, but good question. Did I answer that for you okay? So that's the story on Measure Z. So we're waiting to see what's going to happen. It's unfortunate that the city did not do those informational meetings before they decided to put it on the ballot. If they'd have done that and gotten feedback from the people, then they would have saw if there probably isn't an appetite for this, maybe we should do it a different way. But they didn't do that. So the chief's here, we got to stop talking about it. So, city council candidates, 2, 4, and 6 have been running this time. We really appreciate all the candidates that were in and put out time and effort to do this. So, for the candidates, we have a special certificate for all of them, and the certificate, on the certificate, reads what we have here. This is a quote from Theodore Roosevelt. And it says, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end of the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never know victory or defeat. So, if all the candidates that are here would come up, we'd like to present them with a certificate. Any other candidates here? Anyone that wants to claim to be a candidate?
Next time.
Now, Jessica Katawi couldn't be here. She's on vacation, but she did send us a message. She says, I especially want to thank Lewis and Brian for inviting all the candidates tonight. As for the election, the results are still changing and ballots are still being counted. So we'll see what happens in the days ahead. No matter what the final outcome is, I'm incredibly grateful for all of the encouragement, support, and kindness that so many of you have shown me throughout the journey. It's truly made a difference. One thing I know for certain is that we are all sharing the same goal. We want a better future for our community and for our residents. The commitment doesn't end on election day. We all have a role to play in staying engaged, supporting one another, and continuing to advocate for what is best for our neighborhoods. Thank you again for your support, your friendship, and your dedication to our community. Let's stay positive, continue working together, and hope for a great outcome for Riverside and Ward 4. I think that's nice of Jessica to send that. So, the other candidates, you can tell them what they missed out on. A nice certificate. Okay, now we want to talk a little bit about the Riverside election integrity. So, as we mentioned last meeting, Brian and I have been involved in the Riverside election integrity team since it started in 2022. It originally got going really by a fine lady named Yvette. She had been working for the Register of Voters. She was a math whiz, and she was seeing how they were doing things and counting ballots and so on and so forth, and said, boy, this is strange. So she started asking for data, for public records of, their tally sheets and all this stuff, and started putting it together, and started finding that things weren't adding up right. So she got friends together and other people together to look at her work, and so that started way back before 2022. So we've been reporting this data now for quite a while. So this is basically the backbone of the team. We are local volunteers from across Riverside County who care about the fair and transparent elections. We aren't connected to any political party, candidate, or cause. We believe every lawful vote should be counted accurately with public confidence in our election process. Our team began meeting in 2022 when a few residents started reviewing publicly available election information. Since then, we have been observing election procedures, learning about election laws, and helping neighbors understand the process. Our goal is simple: promote transparency, trust, and civic participation for everyone in Riverside County. So that's what the group has been doing. There's no partisanship here. There's no connection with any party or anything that's gone on. And here's kind of, I'm going to have Brian explain some of the numbers for Proposition Prop 50, which is the one that's caused all the scandal where the sheriff got a warrant. He basically used our data that we presented that said, look, more ballots, you counted more ballots than came in, according to your own data. How could that be? How can you count more ballots than ballots received? Well, that's been a repeated thing from election to election to election. So we've been presenting this to the county supervisors, presenting it to the DA's office, the sheriff, or anyone. And the problem has always arisen. We've tried to get them to recount the ballots. The trouble is there's an expiration date on the ballots. If it's a special election, like Prop 50 was, it's only a few months and the ballots get destroyed. The 2024 election, the ballots will be destroyed in October. Now, we have to keep our taxes for how many years? 7 years? They don't have to keep the ballots for more than 22 months, and they get destroyed. So, in order to put together the real data, to see what's going on, it takes time to get all that data, do the analysis, go back, meet with the ROV, say, here's what we found, what did you find, get their explanation, and so on. We've spent countless hours. We were over there doing this the other day, watching them do signature verifications and tally the ballots and putting them in the machines and so on. We spent a lot of time over there. You got a police chief over here, guys. So we spent a lot of time doing that. So here's the results of Proposition 50. 611,000 compared to 657,000. That was by their own data. Now this data our detailed data has been sent up to the state Supreme Court that now holds the case with all the data from the gentleman that did all the work on it, and he's agreed to testify and do whatever to show, look, we tried to get good explanations, we tried to figure out why. Even a recent election, one before the one we just had, there was one of the communities, which one was it? At 500?
Dela Cruz or something like that.
Anyway, there was a little election with 500 votes, and we audited that one and found 10 votes missing, 10 ballots missing. So then they went back and checked and said, oh, we found the 10 ballots, they were down in Temecula. But Temecula wasn't voting. So that's the kind of, we have a hard time getting good explanation.
Just to explain, the top number is, you can drop your ballot in a drop box, or you can drop it off at a voting center, and every night or 2 times a day, volunteers go out from the ROV, they open up that box that's locked, and they count the ballots. They go, there's 16 pieces of paper here. And then the second person counts it and goes, yep, there's 16 pieces. They both sign an affidavit under penalty of perjury that there were 16 ballots in it. They put it in a bag, they seal the bag, and then they drive it up to the ROV. We're not quite sure what the ROV does then, but anyways, that piece of paper is an official document. We filed information requests, and we got all of those pieces of paper. So we added those up. And that's where you get that,
569.
well, it's 589 plus that includes the mail-in ballot. So if you dropped it in the mail, the post office gets it. So what, yes,
You requested the affidavits or the ballots?
affidavits. So, yeah, if we go to the website, you'll actually see an affidavit with signatures. And before I go any further, I see Rich came in. It's his birthday, so we gotta let him out of here.
Okay, Rich.
We can sing happy birthday later, but give him a certificate, take the picture, and then go have dinner with your family.
Step up, Rich. How old are you, 29 and holding?
49.
Just congratulating everyone that ran for office. It's really a little, pretty good appreciation for us.
And happy birthday. So yeah,
Go to the right bar, that'll get you a beer.
if you go to the wrong bar, they'll throw you out. So every day the ROV picks up the ballots from the post office, they put them through a sorter, they used to count that, and they give us a daily sheet on that. How many pieces of paper, weren't looking at votes, how many pieces of paper went through that. So that's where the 589, 670. There are 200
And we've actually followed them to the post office and back with the ballots.
and then the 298 is fax and confidential ballots. I didn't know you could fax your ballot in, but I guess you can. And I have no idea what a confidential ballot is, but they have those. So they had those papers and they told us how many they had, so we counted that.
I can tell you, but then I have to kill you.
Okay. And then in person was 57, and that means you went to a vote center, you went in, you signed in, you did your thing, and you walked out. So at the end of the day, that vote center, again, fills out a form that says, we had so many people come in today and vote. Now that one, sometimes you have up to 12 signatures telling you how many people voted that day. So we requested all these numbers. These are all the ROV's numbers. We didn't make them up. We didn't sit there and count people. We just took their papers total. So it came to 627,802 ballots. They rejected 16,000 because of bad signatures. In Prop 50, several people voted yes and no, so that doesn't count. So we came up with the total of 611,000 ballots received. The ROV reported 657 votes. You can't have more votes than ballots. You can have less votes than ballots, but you can't have more. So we asked them, here's all the numbers, here's all the documentation, which is yours. Where did we go wrong? And they don't have an answer. So when we presented the information to the sheriff, he asked them, and they obviously didn't give him a good answer. And because the ballots are going to be destroyed and were to be destroyed in May, he said, I need to take these so that we can count them. He went and got a warrant. The judge said, yep, go save the ballots so that we can count, and now that's up at the Supreme Court. So there's a lot of confusion about there wasn't any reason to seize the ballots and all of that. This all could have been fixed if they just hand counted the ballots after the election. And all we're looking for is it 611 or is it 657? If it's 657, great, the machine's right, and their paperwork's wrong. They need to fix that. If it's 611, great, the paperwork's right, your machine's wrong. You're gonna have to fix that. In 2024, the difference was 33,000 extra votes compared to ballots. The difference on that one was there's over 250 contests from city council in other cities, actually our city council, county supervisor, all of that. And out of 250 of them, 100 of them won by less than 3,000 votes. But we had 33,000 extra votes floating around. So,
And it has nothing to do with who voted for what.
and then, and again, we're not saying who voted or didn't. All we're saying is just count the pieces of paper. If they match, then we have a good place to start.
So the Proposition 50 had, the news media had it, they're trying to overturn, no. We could care less whether you voted yes or no. That's not what's being counted. It's just the paper ballots themselves. How many did you actually get that were recorded? So that's the simple part of the process. And the problem is the machines that they use have proprietary software. You can't see the code of what the software is. And even though they're not connected to the internet, they have a clock in them. So anyone can program those to do anything they want it to do at any time or date.
And then for the June election, we filed all the paperwork so that we can get all those forms of paper. And they informed us that they no longer count how many ballots they get from the mail. So they have no idea. Which of course we brought up, and how do you know what you have? And they said, well, the post office bills us. And we said, they bill you for how many? Well, no, they just bill us a bulk rate. How do you know that's correct? Well, we don't. So that's where we're at now.
So just to let everybody know, all it is we're trying to clarify our democracy because mail-in voting is very difficult. You know, we used to all go to the polling place and put in an ID, we all got a ballot, and we all voted. Only the people that wanted to vote voted. The people that didn't want to vote weren't selling their ballots or signing their name and letting some family member do it, or they weren't getting into arguments with their family that says, I want to show your ballot before you turn it in. Well, if you do it in the polling place, you can tell your family anything you want and then vote the way you want to in the polling place and nobody knows, right? So the other thing is it's almost impossible to keep the records up on who's supposed to get a ballot. You know, you're supposed to notify the ROV and anytime you move out of the state. How many people do you think do that? There was a study done several years ago in Wisconsin where they found thousands of people that had left Wisconsin and were living in other states and registered in those states and had been gone for a while, so they went to them and said, you found these thousands of people that are gone, you need to take them off the rolls. Not until they notify us. That's the rule, not until they notify us. Yeah.
Yeah, my dead neighbor found it very hard to notify, I've gotten her ballot twice now.
Yeah. Well, it's difficult to, at any one moment in time, there's people moving, passing away, whatever. It's impossible to keep that database up accurate. So ballots are going to get out there. And the ballots are like a bearer bond. You know what a bearer bond is? Those that bear the bond have the value. There's no name on it. Well, the ballot's like a bearer bond. It has value. So people that get them that don't want to vote, right? Like I gave you the city's numbers of how many were eligible voters. So all the rest of those ballots could have very well gone out and nobody returned them. So what happened to those ballots? So it becomes very difficult. I said when COVID hit and they started doing the mail-out ballots, I said, okay, this is okay, but what they ought to have is drive-through drop-off. So you drive through, show your photo ID, and drop off your ballot, and it gets scanned, right? Instead of just mailing it in or sending it in hither-skither. That way we know that you voted, you intended to vote, and you put out a little effort driving by to drop off your ballot, right? I mean, they say, you know, we make it easier for people to vote. I travel a lot. I see millions of people standing in airports that are willing to stand in hours to get a ticket, to go through security, to have every orifice in their body examined in order to get on the airplane. And they don't complain. So I don't know how we can complain about something simple as showing a photo ID to make sure we're a citizen to vote. So, but this is all about just keeping the ballots counted properly and making sure we've got a good system. Yes, sir.
Do you know what the margin of error that 33,000 represents?
Well, we don't know. We're basing it on the data we got from the ROV.
It's about a 7% error, and the federal guidelines say you're allowed to have one error per 125,000 ballots. So that's 0.002 or something. So yeah, when we first started this, they told us the state law is 2% error. And we said, it's an election. There's no such thing as a 2% error. So we called Sacramento and talked to the Secretary of State, and they said, no, there's no 2% error. But they did just pass a law that says they're trying to make it illegal to investigate an election. So obviously it's very transparent.
And the new law won't allow you to challenge signature verification.
Yeah, that's a whole nother meeting.
That's a whole other meeting. We stood there and watched them for hours do signature verification, and that was shocking.
What do they verify on the signatures?
Well, they have a bunch of your signatures, like your driver's license and other things that they have. So they'll have 4 or 5 signatures that you've done on legal documents. And then they compare the signature you sent in. The problem is, you could have signed your full name and last name on all 6 of those. Then suddenly on your ballot, you do 3 initials. And as long as you have 3 curves that match the curves in your signature, you're okay.
Right, they look for a minimum of 3 points that match.
3 points.
So if you put a dot over an I, that's 1. You actually start your name with the first letter of your name, that's 2.
Are they doing that on every ballot?
They do that every ballot, and the people doing it have 1.3 seconds to verify the signatures, because there's so many ballots. So they just did get some software that we told them about that actually came with the machine, so they could use it. But they've set that at 45%. So if your signature is about a 45% match or higher, it automatically goes through. If it's below that, then it will go to a human. But as Louis said, on Saturday, we were watching them, and literally, they pulled up the 5 signatures, and the 5 signatures were the person's full name.
And they were all
see
in
it.
it.
And obviously, everybody's signature changes, I mean, but you can look at it and say, yeah, no, that matches. The signature on the ballot was 2 initials.
It was just a,
It just 2 squiggles, and they said yes. And then they had another one that we saw where the 5 signatures, again, signatures, and being a little prejudiced here, it was probably an elderly person, because you could see over the 5 signatures, it was getting worse and worse and worse. But the signature on the ballot was block letters, perfect. And they said, yep, that matches. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to question. It's not a rabbit hole most people should go through, because you'll never come out. But, yeah.
anyway, we just wanted to give you an update on that.
What questions? Questions?
So the 7,000, that's the number of signatures rejected?
Yes, well, no, those are the signatures, just ballots rejected. They might have come in damaged, or they might have filled out every box instead of one, or they might have filled out nothing, just sent the ballot back blank. See, I've said all along that if you're gonna mail out ballots, you need to insist that they all get returned whether you vote or not. In other words, there's a big box at the top that says, I'm not voting. You check that box and you send it in. That way no one can vote for you. But every ballot has to be returned. If you don't return 2 ballots in a row, you don't get one again. That's the way the absentee ballot system used to work. And we used to have the absentee ballot system. If you didn't turn in 2 ballots in a row, you didn't get a 3rd one. You had to come back to the ROB and re-register. So we should have a system where we insist every ballot is returned. That way we would know which ones, right? People might have passed away or moved out, because there is no national registry of where you're registered to vote. So you could technically be registered to vote in 12 different states. And if you had the mail forwarded to you the right way, you could vote 12 times. There's a way to do that.
When will this recent election be certified?
It's supposed to be certified.
They have to send the numbers up to the state June 15th, the preliminary numbers. And they'll certify it by June 25th, I believe.
24th or 25th.
Isn't the data we count votes till July 2nd?
Yeah, but they get certified anyways. But, yeah, I mean, well, again, we've asked for the data, and they said, well, we can't get it to you until after we certify. Well, then how do we check the data? So.
Anyway, there's, yes, Lauren.
Hey, you have another candidate?
Oh, yeah, Arm's in the back.
Arm,
Come
come on up here, Arm.
Then after Arm, we'll have the police chief. We're gonna take a later flight.
Arm, since you came late, we'll ask you to do a song and dance with you now. That's just a little appreciation from us for running.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
For city council.
Thank you so much.
They're already acting like they're elected, they show up late. This is one a few months ago. Brian and I tried at least one of us go to each one of them. And the other thing we found out about the chief, here's his baseball coach.
Oh, man. I wasn't very good, that's why I've been a cop for 33 years, so.
Oh, wasn't, look at that. Boy, what a fine looking young man. He was a pitcher in 1989, drafted by the LA Dodgers. Yeah, so we have to just showing him that we can investigate too. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. And I do appreciate, I have that quote in my office, the man in the arena, Teddy Roosevelt, one awesome one. How was
Are
everybody?
these cards still out there? They're valuable?
There, you know what? Do you know Steve Johnson from this Let's Go Anywhere? He bought like 50 of those, and he hands them out like he's gonna get out of a ticket or something. I said, you know what's worth them out there? I think it's up to like $5 worth it, but yeah, I was actually drafted in 1987. I signed out of high school, and I just tell a funny story about this card. That 1989 was my third year in professional baseball, and it was Mike Piazza's first year. So we were on this team together. So when I was a brand new cop, I would get called into the chief's office like once a month because people would mail in my baseball card for me to sign. And they really thought I was like hot stuff, you know, like, hey, you must be famous. I'm like, here's the reason why. That team set is worth way more if everybody on the team signs it with Mike Piazza's card in there. That's what they were after, Mike Piazza's card. But yeah, it was a great experience, and I always get a little embarrassed when I talk about it, but it brought me to where I'm at today. So thank you. I always love coming to this group. I even brought my wife and I. This is our community too. Directly, this is our community. So I appreciate you and all the support. Lewis and Brian, you guys have been great, and I appreciate also being on my advisory committee as well. And it's a pleasure for me to give an update on your department. So let's talk about that first picture that was up there. It was a swearing ceremony. We do swearing and award ceremonies about every month or two, and everybody that's completed the academy to lateral officers, and then we'll also give some awards out interdepartmentally. So as recent as a year ago, I think the last time I came here in June or July, we were still down positions. So when we were fully staffed at Riverside Police Department, we have 432 officers. We are almost there at full staff now. When I became the chief 7 years ago, we were down 88 positions. Now, that's not just we've hired 88, we've had to keep up with attrition every year to the tune of about 10 to 15 officers every year that retire, so we've tacked that on. So we've just been an outstanding machine in our personnel division. We're starting to see a little bit of slowing every once in a while, then it'll ramp back up again. Going to another graduate, some more tomorrow night at the academy next month. We've been consistently sending officers to every police academy in the last 5 years. We haven't been, a lot of times we'll go a year without going to a graduation. We go every single graduation. So we've been very successful. And a lot of that has to do, I think, is with, number one, the city that we live in. I tell people all the time, we're very fortunate at Riverside to have a supportive community. Like I said, I've been on 33 years. That was probably the worst days of our life was the Tyisha Miller shooting in 1998. And I lived through that as a patrol officer. And even then, we still felt we had a supportive community, even though it was the roughest time for us. But over the years, when that occurred, we didn't have a lot of community engagement, I'll say, at the time. So when you get this situation, for those who don't know, the Tyisha Miller shooting, shot and killed a 19-year-old African-American female. You can Google it, it's been all over the place. But for people that are not from Riverside, I tell them it was our George Floyd, for sure. National recognition, not good recognition, but just getting kicked in the groin daily for years. And when something like that happens, the first thing you want to do is probably engage your community, especially your African-American community, your black churches, ACLU, whatever, NAACP, anybody you can talk to that you have a relationship, and we did not have those relationships in place. So when we tried at the time, the chief and the command staff at the time tried to go into a church, maybe go to Park Avenue or Kansas, and they look at them like, who are you? We've never seen any of you before. Now you want to talk to us? So we've worked diligently the last 20 some odd years to make sure we are represented everywhere as Riverside Police Department, whether it's the Mission Grove Alliance group, or it's a RUSD group, a Chamber of Commerce group, grassroots group, whatever it may be, you will always have somebody represented. Now you have a fine Lieutenant Juan Munoz is the area commander here, and our area commanders are busy. They'll be here tonight, he'll be at Sycamore tomorrow, he'll be on the east side the next day, always having that engagement there so you know when that tragedy does happen, that they're gonna have a face to put to the department and know that we can have that dialogue and get through the roughest challenges. And I think because we've been so diligent over the last 20 some odd years, when 2020 hit, we really came out relatively unscathed as a city. You know, we still had to do a lot of community engagement during that, even though it happens 1,500 miles away from here, it affects all of us in law enforcement. And for us to be able to go to our community and tell them face to face, we don't train our officers to put their knee in the back of somebody's neck for 8 minutes, right? That doesn't happen here. I know all kinds of crazy stuff would happen, but we don't train our officers, and then they believe us because we built that trust. And I also recognize the fact that that's very delicate as well. It could just be one incident that throws us right back. So we have to work hard at continuing that. not to go too much on our rant on that, but that's one of the reasons people want to come here. We are the most desirable department in the Inland Empire that people come to work. It's not like, you know, we're millionaires at Riverside PD and they don't get that much money at RSO. It's all about the culture here and the working conditions, the training, the equipment that they receive, and then the support of the community. And the city leadership has to stay solid. We have to have a council that always supports us. We've been very fortunate. They can have views on all kinds of other stuff politically, but when it comes to the police department, they've been very supportive, and I appreciate that very much. So let's talk about our community and what the priorities are, what I hear mostly, what the area commanders hear. What's the number one thing we hear about all the time still? You think right now? Quiz, anybody? What's the biggest problem? Homeless. Homeless, mental illness, certain areas more than others. The worst area in our city, I would say, consistently is Tyler Magnolia, all the way down. Actually, I take Magnolia from Van Buren all the way to La Sierra, and then a little bit north and south of those locations. Why is that? We have lots of motels down there. We've had some projects that were funded during COVID that brought a lot of undesirable folks into those places. And we also have all the county resources, or one block north of Magnolia. So we take, you guys heard the term 5150, mental illness evaluation, that's all done down there. Our ARC, our sobering center, our other mental health facilities, which are county buildings, but they come from all over the county to drop them off there. They get their treatment, it's supposed to be a 72-hour hold. I can't remember even when I was a patrol officer that they actually held them for 72 hours. It's usually a couple hours. And then they walk out and go right to the Galleria or Magnolia. So we work well with the Sheriff's Department as far as resources. Those are their buildings. They've provided us 1 or 2 deputies to work that area to help us with the county facilities when they're released, because I think we did the numbers 2 years ago, that we had over 1,000 calls on one street in 1 year, and it's all right in that area. So they've worked with us to help get some support when it deals with that stuff down there in that area. So homelessness, we have bolstered all of our teams. You've probably heard about the Public Safety Engagement Team and our CBAT team. These are teams that go out with resources. It's not just cops, teams of cops. It's cops with code enforcement officers, with mental health professionals that ride with our officers, substance abuse counselors, regular counselors. So we have those resources when we go out to engage that part of our community. And now we're finally at 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., those resources are there. So it makes it nice on 2 ways, that you have more resources to use for that, but it also frees up the patrol officer that's handling 911 calls a day. We average over 600 911 calls in a 24-hour period. So it's a lot of calls for service, but it frees up those officers to be able to work on their calls for the 911 calls rather than getting stuck on an encampment. That's the other thing I tell people too, when these kids that come out of the academy, they get 965 hours of training in the academy, 6 months. You know how much training they get on dealing with homelessness and encampments? 0 hours. So they get to the field training program with us, and now they're finding out they're spending half of their shift dealing with it. They work days, you know, and sometimes swings, dealing with that. We've had to embrace that as being a police problem. I know you guys heard this before. Homelessness is not a police problem. I understand that at its very core. But if it's taking up 50% of the police's time, then it is a police problem. So we want to make sure we have the resources, and we had to change our culture in another way to where it got very frustrating. I'll hit on this in a little bit, but got frustrating legislatively on what we could and could not do with people that are breaking the law. And officers could go down a main thoroughfare, University, 14th, whatever, and you can see a guy in the middle of the street, naked, defecating, breaking glass, whatever it may be, and in their mind, they got to the point where they're like, you know what? There is nothing I can do about that. I can pull over, I can maybe cite him for something, but he will not get booked into jail. So it got frustrated, guys tended to just drive by the problem. That's a big no-no. Told our guys consistently the last 6, 7 years, we need to make sure we stop. We need to make sure the community understands that we see what you see, and we understand it's a problem. It's frustrating for me as a chief to listen to business owners that have to close up their business, or they're leaving Riverside because they can't pay $10,000 a year to replace the glass on their business. Or, you know, we got the park ranger program in place now, 20 park rangers, the PANS, Park and Neighborhood Specialist. That came to a point about 4 years ago when I got that program through. It was frustrating to hear people said, I don't want to go to Shamwell Park to Little League practice because we're getting accosted every time to go there. So that's been a big help too. The PANS folks are a huge help. I already warned the council, probably gonna ask for more of those in the near future because they're a huge assistance to our officers. So homelessness, and what's the other big problem that we hear mostly, and I know you guys can appreciate being up here, is traffic. You looked at, when I first started this job, we had 24 motor officers. 3 years ago, we had 8 motor officers. Their primary function is traffic control, right? Traffic enforcement, traffic education. So we've doubled that number. We have 16 now. Because if you think about 33 years ago, we had 3 times as many motors and 100,000 less people in the city of Riverside. Now you go back to where we're at now, so we're trying to build that up to make sure we have that traffic enforcement. Another small component about that is commercial enforcement. I know that's been talked about at these meetings quite a bit. Going up Van Buren, Alessandro, big rig trucks. So we have commercial enforcement officers, motor officers, but we also work in conjunction with CHP. They have a station in our city. They need to jump on, they do jump on with us, and we'll do different type of operations periodically together in a collaborative effort to help with the commercial enforcement. But I just wanted technology. How the heck do we do our job without technology? I don't understand. So we still, we do exercises with our officers about every 3 months for just like 4 hours. We'll shut down like the mapping systems. They have to do it the old way, like so you have to listen to the radio, write the address down, and find the address. These guys don't even know what a Thomas guy is, our new officer. They have no idea. That was standard issued equipment to us. You know, if you're really cool, you got the fireman's map because they had a real tricked out map that took you right to the page you needed to go. But we need to make sure, because we own our own utilities here in this city. We have a lot of sensitive areas, critical infrastructure in our city that could shut a whole city down if they're attacked, whether it's a cyber attack or a regular attack. So we have to make sure officers are prepared for that. But one of the things we do, it's amazing, is the cameras that are throughout the city. We have about 250 cameras, well actually, sorry, it's close to 800 cameras, half and half where they're either the flock system, license plate readers, or vigilant. You've probably heard a lot of heat coming down with flock, especially with sharing information for immigration enforcement, whatever. We've been audited. We do our own audits on ourselves to prove that we are not engaging in that. But unfortunately, it's happened in other places in the country, so they're under the spotlight. And they've already put a lot of mechanisms in place to fix that problem over the last year. They've got a huge cadre of lawyers that are working on that to make sure that these safeguards are in place so we're not overstepping. We're not violating SB 34 or 54 by sharing information with the federal government. So, thank you. So the license plate readers help us solve crimes. Another thing that we have just started is a DFR program. Has anybody heard of drones? It's first responders. So we're in the middle of our second phase of a pilot program. We just finished the first 3 months, and what it is basically is you have drones. The 2 we have are on top of City Hall, and when a 911 call comes in, that drone will pop up as soon as a 911 call comes in and go to the scene. Before the officer even gets the radio call, the drone will be on its way. So we're finding out as the drone gets there within about 30 seconds, where it takes us minutes, sometimes even longer. You guys, how long does it take you to get up the hill at night here, you know? The drone can be there right away. Gets eyes on, it makes it safer for both whoever's involved and the officers that are responding to those type of calls. And gets eyes on to where they can direct officers in. What it also does is it helps eliminate some of the BS calls, the calls that aren't really real, you know, because you get a lot of, oh, this guy's going crazy and there's a huge fight at Market University. Boom, drone goes up, says there's nobody on Market University. Right, so the officer can slow everything down, not have to worry. They'll still check, but at least we get that knowledge, and it's cut down. We did the stats after the first 3 months. about 30% of our calls for service are handled by the drones, where they're able to cancel the officers going and not waste their time on something they don't need to be at. So the next vendor that we're going to use starts in a couple of weeks. So we're going to try 2 in the south end of our city, which is the Magnolia, Tyler area. We don't know, we're going to put on a fire station or a police station there, but we'll see how it goes from there. And then ultimately, we've already been talking to our council about this. It's kind of a big ticket item, but it's worth its weight in gold, to get 6 drones in 3 parts of the city, so north, center, and south, to help us with all of our response times and all of our crime-solving abilities. So that's great. Some of the body-worn cameras systems that we have, we just got through council yesterday where we approved an upgrade. We use Motorola products for our body-worn cameras. Those capture everything. You know what's scary, I think, and I won't be working here still when this day comes, but I can see a day where an officer responds to a call and doesn't even write a report because it's all captured here. Now the new technology, it also transcribes what was said in an interview right to their police report. They can look at a driver's license, put it in front of the camera, it'll download that information into the police report. I interview a victim of a burglary, she'll tell me everything that happened, it'll transcribe it there and put it right in. It also speaks 30 different languages, so that helps out too. You don't have to call for an interpreter or a Spanish speaker or Chinese speaker or whatever it may be, that it can actually transcribe or translate it for you. So those are just ways to help us with, investigating crimes. And it frees up the officer's time too, as far as not having to spend hours and hours of paperwork like we normally do after every single call that we get. And I did ask this question from the vendor, and they're working on it, they said, but I said, we have a large deaf community. Could you do American Sign Language? Would it be able to pick it up? And they said, we're going to work on that. It's just a little bit difficult because there is a lot of, I guess there's facial reactions, there's different types of ASL. But it's going to be in there, and we have the California School for the Deaf here. Granted, CHP handles everything on campus, but we still have a large deaf community, so that's something they're working on as well. So with all that, I talked about helping us solve crime. Just the crime reduction stats is our property crime, which was our biggest, that's your burglaries and car thieves and stuff like that, has gone down 23%. And our violent crime has decreased 7%. Violent crime being homicide, robbery, rape, things like that. So we're trending down in all areas of crime, but I think a lot of that has to do with the technology we're able to use now. And I can tell you, I've said this to several people the last couple months, the last 3 years, the last 2 years, we've solved every homicide in Riverside. The year before that, we solved every but one. So we have a 95 or 6% solve rate for homicides. That's incredible. If you think the national average is 54%, right? And I could come in here to this group 10 years ago and say, hey, we have an 80% solve rate. You get a standing ovation. Oh, that's great. You guys are doing great. Now with the technology and the ability for our young officers especially to know how to use it all and solve crimes, it's been a game changer. And, we had one, do you remember the double homicide we had about a month or two ago downtown, right by the police station, actually, by the courthouse? Yes. When our officers got out there, they thought, man, our streak is over. We're never gonna, this is a total whodunit. No witnesses, no nothing like that. And if it wasn't for the assistance of all the cameras in the surrounding areas, being able to backtrack and go back and forth and solve it, they got a guy identified in 24 hours and in custody and shortly after that. So it's things like that that are examples that we can't afford. I bring all that up because what scares me is there is a narrative nationally talking about an overreach of government or using how they shouldn't be using it. And I don't want to ever get to the point, I don't think we will, but I don't want to get to the point where we lose it. And there's already been 2 cities that I know of in the state of California that got rid of all their license plate reader cameras. One was Santa Cruz and one was, I think, Mountain View, California, in Northern California. So I don't want to get to that point. I want to keep showing the successes. I want to keep showing transparency on how we're doing it, what information we're sharing. This is what happens when you get a call. And then show them data to say, hey, we solved this many this many cases by using license plate reader information or drones as first responders. So we still want to lose. So we work hard with our council. Council's been great. We work hard with our state legislators too to try to work on making sure we don't lose that. We also, back to drones as first responders, that's basically is our real-time crime center. So, meaning that officers can get information in real time while the crime is going on and help guide them. So that we're just gonna bolster that once we get the drones and first responders up. That'll create basically a fully functioning real-time information center. Speaking of legislation, so I know I usually talk to this group about our efforts working with our state legislators. So I'm the president of Riverside County Chiefs of Police and Sheriff, but I'm also on the executive board, vice president for California Police Chiefs. So I do spend a lot of time, I just got back a couple hours ago from there actually, talking to our legislation, to making sure we're working together. And I can tell you this year is the best year in the last 5 or 6. There's still some bills we're opposing that we need to get out in front of, but it seems like the shift has gone a little bit better for us in the last year to, with the exception being getting rid of cameras. That's what we're probably the biggest issue we have this year. But if you think back to 3 or 4 years ago, they were trying to get rid of police canines. They're trying to get rid of the ability for us to search people, trying to get rid of the ability for us to make a traffic stop for an equipment violation. So we got past all those, but there's still work to do. So we work quite a bit with them. I testified in 2 Senate bill hearings yesterday that both passed, which was encouraging. And we hope to keep those relationships going because we don't want to be adversarial. Nothing gets done if you have an adversarial relationship. And the one thing we tell all the legislators up there is it doesn't matter if you have a DRR next to your name. When I'm in the room, or other chiefs in the room, is it fair to say we're talking about a nonpartisan issue before we get started here? And they all agree. And now we can get started talking. You know, because you have to have those relationships. And we realize, and it's very small and bold, we kind of have tiers of people we want to visit. Tier 1 are the hardcore Republicans. No matter what we do, they're going to support us. They're going to save us. Tier 3 is the ones that no matter what they do, they hate us. They're not going to support us. Those are small groups. The biggest one are all the moderate Democrats that we have in the Assembly and the Senate that they're independent thinkers, they're good decision makers. So those are the ones we kind of target when it comes to bills as they're trying to be passed. My next thing here. Just so you know, one of the ones I testified yesterday was a trespass authorization bill. If there's any business owners in here, you know, you sign what's called the 602 letter, which is trespassing in the penal code. And if it's the middle of the night, somebody's trespassing on your property, your business, or even as a homeowner, you don't have to be home for us to arrest them for trespassing as long as that authorization is on file through us. All the businesses do it. So we don't have to get woken up at 3 in the morning, we can arrest the person for trespassing. They tried to change the law, or they did change the law last year, that every business owner had to get their 602 letter notarized, which is a pain in the butt for a lot of people. And what we had to do as a police department to help our business community, engage them, is help a bunch of people get notary trained in our own department. I think, LaShawn, are you one too? Yeah, she's one. So we want to make it easier for our community so our police department can go, let's go to the chamber today. Let's go to the Magnolia Station today. All business owners come in, we'll get you notarized and through. But to the tune of about $38,000 that we had to spend just to get that done. So this bill that passed yesterday was to get rid of the notarization. Just put on the 602 letter that you're signing under the penalty of perjury, gets the same effect, and it got passed. So that's just kind of a minor one, but some of the things that we do every year that we're trying to get things changed. And the other one is, there's some legislation. I met with one of our senators yesterday about license plate reader technology, and she agrees, other members agree. We're not saying we don't want to get rid of them altogether, because we know you can fight crime with them, but in the nitty-gritty of it, we're really battling over the retention policy. How long can we keep this information for? Some of our cameras keep it for 30 days, and by default, It's out. Some cameras are a year in our city. People like LAPD have a 5-year retention, because bigger city too. But we're just trying to find a sweet spot there to where we can all not just say 30 days for everybody, because and it's on us now to show some examples of crimes that we've had to look back and go back past 30 days, and luckily we have the information available to us to complete the investigation. So that's one of the big ones we're working on as well. And I think that's about it as far as anything that's close, that's got through the public safety committees. Last thing on legislation is, I always like to talk about is, and I talked about it with this group before, is Prop 36. Remember how excited we were for Prop 36 to get passed? It is great that it's in place, but there's still very specific problems to certain counties like ours. That being jail space, right? So we don't have any jail space in Riverside County. San Bernardino County has plenty. Orange County has plenty. San Diego has none, LA has none. So it's different as you go up and down the state of California and who has jail space available. And why I bring that up is because some of the things that Prop 36 said is that repeat offender, the habitual thief, that was stealing stuff up to $950 100 times in a row and getting arrested in a ticket every single time. On the 101st time, they just get another ticket. There was no consequences. Where if there's 2 misdemeanor convictions, the third one is now a felony. That's a law we had in place years ago. They just brought it back. So that's great. You still get arrested for a felony, but you're not going to go to jail still in Riverside County because there's not enough space in there. And they take out the nonviolent ones first, so the habitual thieves aren't in there. Same thing goes for drug offenders. The law changed in that way too, where they changed law, Prop 47, where all the hard drugs, simple possession before was a felony. And they got rid of that, so your hard drugs like heroin, methamphetamine, cocaine, possession was not a jailable offense, it was a misdemeanor. So you can get arrested a bunch of times, go to rehab, keep getting arrested, and it would never change. And it got to the point where once they changed the law, that if you had 2 prior convictions for misdemeanor possession, the third one would be a felony, kind of like the theft thing. So, but we're in the same boat when it comes to booking them into jail and the jail space. So we're working on that. I wasn't too confident when I read an article yesterday that the sheriff was talking about having to cut deputies with their new budget. There's a jail in Indio, 4 floors, I think it's 1,800 beds, and 1 floor is open. They just can't get it open. And it doesn't seem encouraging with the last budget meeting, I guess, that that's going to happen anytime soon. But we're always kind of monitoring that situation as well. I just want to touch quickly on a fusion center. Does anybody know what a fusion center is? It's an informational center, it's an intelligence center. Not just for law enforcement, but it could be for any type of natural disaster, emergency, where we need to be centrally located to disseminate information. We use a place called the JRIC, the Joint Regional Intelligence Center out of LA, for the last 30 years. These came into fruition right after 9/11 to make sure you have a hub, a center location that can disseminate information to law enforcement and you knew it was accurate and correct. Not just what you saw on social media or some bolo you might have got from a neighboring agency. It's coming to the Fusion Center. Well, you look at the 2 counties, Riverside and San Bernardino, we're over 5 million people now. The JRIC, we were underrepresented. We were getting information from the JRIC that we knew about 3 days ago. Like, this is not doing good. So we branched off. Both counties, Riverside, San Bernardino County, and we've started our own fusion center. It's called the STRAC Center. One of the original people that got together with me and a couple other guys was Tim Strack, the captain from the fire department that passed away 2 years ago. So we named it after him. Safety Tribal something, whatever ends up as STRAC, but Safety Tribal Alliance Center. So that just opened. Right now it's being run out of San Bernardino Police Department. To be quite honest, it's the only place we could find space right now to get it running. So now we have analysts that are currently handling, we call them SARS, suspicious activity reports, that come in on a daily basis. And if and when, and one of the big selling points was 2 things for us. The IRC shooting, remember that, was an active shooter in San Bernardino, the largest one ever in the state. And then I used the Christopher Dorner example, who shot and killed Mike Crane, our officer, and killed a sheriff's deputy a couple days later, that I remember, I was the incident commander then, I remember that night so much misinformation going out for a week, you know, to the tune of 2 poor ladies delivering papers, and Torrance got shot for a mistaken vehicle. Bad information going out. So we need to make sure we had our own way of disseminating information, truthful information, to our officers to get that. So that's the Fusion Center. And lastly, and I'll obviously open up for questions, I'm really excited about, we finally are getting our new police station. So in a week I'll be homeless. Promise I won't be pushing a cart in front of Albertsons or anything like that, but we are getting our new police station, our headquarters. That was approved 10 years ago in Measure C. And you know how cities are, I get it. I'm just happy we're getting it. But hey, all capital improvement projects are down for the next 2 years. Don't even think about it, bring it back. But we had earmarked money 10 years ago. So now we're finally doing it. Me and the 2 deputy chiefs are the last 2 to move out, which will be next week, Monday, Tuesday. And we have an architect, we have a builder already, so we'll be out next week. They start demoing as early as November. And we're basically tearing down the Orange Street station and building a brand new one right there. I laugh because I told people when I got hired here 33 years ago, I remember getting my equipment at the Orange Street station, like uniforms and gun belt stuff. And they'd take me to this room and say, Hal, this crappy old building, we'll get rid of it in like a year. You know? So I go, yeah, we eventually got it. So we're excited about that. And in the interim, we're kind of scattered out through different stations throughout the city. I will be at the Magnolia station. And we also, if you guys know where Events Sports Bar is, next door was a Jenny Craig that is no longer. The city owned that building, so we're moving a lot of staff in there as well to help get our records and support staff, get them offices and the IT stuff that they need to do their jobs. I think I talked for 30 minutes or so straight, so I'd love to answer any questions you guys might have.
Questions for the chief?
Yeah, there are a couple online questions. First one is, now that the construction of the headquarters is underway, what are the anticipated effects with the 911 operations response times?
No effect at all. First of all, the 911 dispatch center is already at Magnolia. Nothing goes through Orange. And then response times, unlike our brothers and sisters at the fire department, we're not stationary. So once we all still have roll call at the same place. They get out to their assignments and nobody leaves until they're replaced. So as far as, there will be no change in response time at all.
Another question is, what can law enforcement do to mitigate the e-bike problems surrounding the park?
Man, I hate talking about e-bikes, but it's getting bigger and bigger. We talked about it at our last meeting. There is some legislation right now, and I remember one of the committees I was asked to be on was the e-bike committee as part from Cal Chiefs. And I realized, like, hey, why don't you pick one of the beach guys? Because it's huge. Newport, Huntington, it's all they talk about in our meetings, and we're like, e-bike problems, come on, man. And then it started coming out here, and it is a big problem. So the legislation they're trying to pass has some stricter guidelines. You know, if you think back to when me and even Lieutenant Munoz first started the job, you couldn't ride your bike had to be licensed, registered. You know, it had to have a light on it, you know, all these other things where we could actually take it away if they didn't. And nowadays they're trying to get some of those rules back for e-bikes, having them licensed. They're trying to change with the manufacturers that they can only build them to go up to a certain amount, like 16 miles an hour, I think it is. Like, some of these guys are like, they're driving right alongside me on the way home, 50 miles an hour, you know? So they're working on the legislation, and then also our ability to impound them. You know, it's hard to take an 11-year-old kid's e-bike away, or, you know, you don't want to do that. So there's an educational component to this also with parents and the school districts. In fact, I think Lieutenant Munoz might be working on that one with the school district, but we're looking at some policies. We've even heard some school districts in the state have banned them from being used at school at all. So we are engaging our both school districts in our city and getting the parents on board to or they're a part of this, so there's no surprises when we start doing enforcement efforts in the future.
You kind of answered this, but it says, can we get someone from the East Area Police Department to dispel the myths regarding the flock cameras?
Yes, I did talk about that, but yes, in fact, Lieutenant Munoz is the East Area Commander, and I know he goes to the Boardwell Park meeting. Has that happened yet, Juan?
Yes.
And gives them updates. One was on, they were talking about drones for, oh, by the way, we are gonna do drones enforcement for 4th of July.
That was the next question.
Was that, yeah. I know there's gotta be a firework question coming up, and I think I did come here right after 4th last year because I asked people, because depending on where you go in the city, best year ever, keep up. Then I, go the next night, that's the worst year ever, Worst time I've ever heard of fireworks. So we have more drones now, so we're gonna do that. We tripled the amount of citations last year than the year before.
Well, that was the question. Did you collect any money?
I don't know where we're at. I know we have been successful. I just don't know to what extent. I doubt it's 100% of them paid, but that was the issue before. But we're going to ramp up our efforts, not just for 4th of July, but New Year's Eve, which is another big day for guns and fireworks.
And this one, maybe for the lieutenant, why does it take so long to investigate an abandoned vehicle? It's been reported to 311, non-emergency RPD, and been told they have a staff shortage. And the vehicle is actually, I think it's Lewis's car, but it's parked right next to his house.
Well, that's why I'm not getting it back.
Yeah.
That was a test.
Yeah, there's a van that's been there a month on Utica.
Yeah.
It's got tickets, it's got a pile of tickets.
I don't want to add on that. I don't know where we're at with.
Okay, I'll get you the address.
We were gonna strip it for parts.
Question, why are there so
Signs in the back there.
why are there so many vehicles with extremely dark tinted windows, loud music, and vehicles not stopping and posting stop signs, as well as vehicles speeding in our neighborhood? That's just because they're idiots, but.
Yeah, all those things are still legal. The tinted windows, all that stuff is just.
I can answer that one. When we were out doing our Measure Z on the, knowing Measure Z, I could have handed out about 6 tickets. People that just pulled up to a red light, making a left, waited, and then turned on red. People that just drive through so late through the red light, it's been red for a while, and they still drive through. I could have handed out, and when you make a right-hand turn, it's legal to make a right-hand turn on a red light without stopping, right? You just cruise right around and
We're
make that
looking for
right.
someone in the crosswalk. I almost got hit 3 times.
So you could have handed out, I want to be sworn in as a.
Yeah, last question, which I'm sure is one of your favorites. What is the challenge with actually enforcing the truck routes on Troutwine and Alessandro?
It's really. First of all, I would just say the people we have dedicated to that type of enforcement. We don't have a whole team. We have a couple guys that work with CHP. And like with a lot of other issues that we might deal with, if I could throw 50 cops at it, yeah, you'd see a big difference. We just don't have those resources. I've heard also, I don't know if it was at a council meeting or something, talking about the truck routes and the truck drivers to try to use the excuse that this is the way the Waze took me. I didn't know it was an unauthorized road to drive on or whatever. But it's at the top of our list. So, and I know I've talked to you about this, Brian, too. It's just a matter of, I think, just more resources and more regularly doing joint operations as well with our partners from CHP or even the Sheriff's Department, because they surround these areas as well, and they're getting the same traffic moving out of the city.
Okay, well, we can talk offline. I'm doing some research. We've got another solution for you.
I like solutions.
Any other questions? Richard, and then Bill.
Hey, thank you, Chief, for being here.
Thank you.
You said at the beginning of your presentation that a good part of every officer's day is the homeless. So with this information, I don't think this is an outlier just to Riverside. So Post has not come up with a syllabus for dealing with this?
They have not. They have-
There's no feedback to them?
Well, yeah, because a lot of the homeless problem that we're encountering as far as enforcement wise is already covered, but they're breaking the law on the things that we're trained on. So, number one, you know, you can ask our PSET team. I brought them into different, my advisory committee and other groups, Citizens Academy, and they'll ask them, hey, how many people do you contact? 40, 50 different people a day, right? And they'll ask them, how many of those people you contact are under the influence of a controlled substance? You know what their answer is? 100%. Now, I thought it was kind of high, you know, but, so being under the influence is against the law of a controlled substance. So, yes, that's covered in the academy. Trespassing, obviously covered in the academy. Warrant service, covered in the academy. But what's not covered is the livability aspect of it as far as, and we are going to address this with them. What is our legal, how much are we liable when we get sued all the time for removing their property? You know, you take a person to jail, it's you taking to jail, what do you do with your stuff? We have to put all that stuff in the property. And sometimes it gets fuzzy. I would encourage posts for people in the post peace officer standards and training. That's the entity that basically governs law enforcement in California. They're the ones that run the police academies. But to try to get some substance in the academy for them to know what their legal ability is to, whether it be remove property or remove a person, because the hard part for post and challenges, it's different in every city. Some cities have different ordinances. You know, the penal code's the penal code in California, but a lot of cities will provide another ordinance where, hey, you can't remove this person until, you know, there's bed space available, or in this area. So, but that's a great point, and it should be brought up.
Follow-up, is there bed space available if they actually volunteer to get into a program?
Yes, there is. And you know what the percentages of people that accept?
Yeah, well.
It's 1% accept resources. There's rules there, so.
Good evening.
How are you, sir?
Bill Clark, Mission Grove North. In the recent weeks, we've had an uptick in mail theft and mailbox vandalism. Your investigator spoke to us last month. I had an opportunity to talk with him. He said there has been an uptick in this problem. In talking to a number of letter carriers and some staff at the Chicago Post Office, I learned of some other issues that we're typically not aware of. That mail trucks used to get vandalized and mail stolen from them, but now what they're doing, as I'm told by the letter carriers are now being robbed of the postal keys. And that concerned me when I heard
You
it.
told the keys to the boxes, the mailboxes, yeah.
To the cluster boxes. They want the crooks want the keys so that at night they go out and open up the boxes instead of vandalizing. As a community, what can we do to help you and the U.S. Postal Service, postal inspectors? What can we do to better aid you in catching these crooks that are hitting our mailboxes?
Great question, and it hits home for me because my mailboxes have been hit twice in the last year in my neighborhood. And I think the last one was no forced entry into it, so that makes sense when you're talking about keys being stolen. Well, you know, basic SEPTED concept as far as, you know, maybe lighting it, if it's a private residence in front of your house, having a camera pointed that way and lighting on that is great. And in a neighborhood that has a box of, or a huge thing of, a bank of mailboxes, to definitely have camera footage. We get more bang for our buck with that, with camera footage, that we can honestly do some good follow-up for it. That's the two things I would think the most, is just getting that camera footage, because we could use it. I see LaShawn's. Go ahead, LaShawn.
So the advice I give to all of my neighborhood watch groups and community meetings, especially where this neighborhood has cluster boxes, is to get your mail every day. It won't come back if there's nothing to get. I know it's annoying and it doesn't like here, but if you empty your mail, then when they open it and it's empty, then they'll move on, because they only come back because this becomes a cluster box of the mail that people leave for weeks, and that's why they come back.
Right, you had to say that when you're sitting right next to my wife, she's gonna yell at me now for not getting the mail every day.
However, it doesn't stop them from opening the box additionally.
It doesn't, but at least you know nothing's taken.
Correct. And recently, on 2 occasions, in Mission Grove, on Mission Grove, I've seen the boxes actually cut at the bottom, and they just left them lying there and broken open.
They form delivery, yeah.
That and the PO box
Yeah.
elsewhere.
But the cheapest way is to get your mail.
Is there a way to get those locks changed? On those cluster boxes, or is that an
I don't know.
I do know that some neighborhoods, when we were having the first batch of this, the mailbox we got when we moved here was kind of like a tuna can, and it was real cheap. So some neighborhoods, the mail carrier wouldn't, the post office wouldn't replace them. And so a lot of you guys were pitching in, there were some companies that had like the, kind of like armored truck material that they were buying, and then at that point you were able to place it where you wanted to, because you were installing it yourself. And then now I think if they're destroyed, I don't know if the post office is replacing them, so you possibly could do that, but you obviously have to give a key to the mail person, so that they have it. But-
Right, and the problem is the master key opens hundreds of mailboxes, so it's not just change your lock, I gotta change everybody's lock, otherwise put your mail carrier around 1,500 keys, you'd be sitting there all day opening it, so.
I made it a point to talk to at least a half a dozen postal employees during the last few weeks. And I learned from one of the technicians that was repairing our box, he's actually a letter carrier out of the Riverside area. The service technicians that take care of our mailboxes in the Riverside area, there's 2 of them and they're out of Santa Ana. And regarding the locking mechanism, I was told that one key, or one type of key may cover not only Mission Grove, but it could also cover Orange Terrace and other parts of the city of Riverside. So one key could have access to numerous cluster boxes or mailbox areas. And the problem is that the Postal Service is, as I was told, is slow in upgrading the locking mechanisms. So there you have it. We have very few postal employees actually doing the maintenance, and the Postal Service is dragging its feet changing the locks. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So they are appropriately named cluster.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Chief, he's out of station, I got a personal friend of Val Grimm. And
Oh,
so, yeah, we,
Good man.
but anyway, I'm wondering, has there been an increase in street racing through the neighborhoods, especially in the late hours of the night between like 11 to 2 a.m., 11 p.m. to 2 a.m.? And what can we, as a community, do about that? And what are your officers able to do to maybe reduce that? Because it's an annoyance and it's a safety hazard.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't heard of a recent uptick. I'm sure it still happens. The last big incidents we've had was up off of Iowa and Palmerita. They would do street shutdowns and race down and everything. I haven't heard of anything recently, but first of all, if you're aware of that happening or hearing that's happening, please contact the area commander so we can put something together, some type of operation, because we will do that. You guys have met our pop officers before and these other teams that are out there. They work at the pleasure of the area commander. So they might work day shift this week, and if we got a problem in the middle of the night, they're gonna work graveyard next week to address the problem. So we do have the resources for that. And when it comes to street racing, we can actually do something with that. You know, it's not like e-bikes and some of the other things where we're still looking. There's some pretty good legislation on the books where we can actually do some good enforcement when it comes to that.
You know those spikes you can roll out?
We got something about it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, let's give the chief a big hand for coming. So if you see a tent roaming around the city that says police chief on it, you know the chief moving his office around because he doesn't have one. Okay, we've got a couple of other quick things to cover. So, here's our schedule. We've got a special guest coming in July. We don't know who it is yet. We've got the DA coming in August, September the fire chief. October's gonna be an important one. We have Gary Thompson coming. He's the head of LAFCO. That's the Local Agency Formation Commission. They're the ones that approve new cities or a city that wants to expand and eat up more of the county. And he's gonna come and talk to us about creating Orangewood, a new city. Taking part of the southern part of our city now from Victoria south, and then the line on the very south can be expanded depending on, down here, it can be expanded depending on how many people in the county want to join and create a new city. Now, the model for this, or the requirement is, the property taxes and sales tax has to add up in that area to qualify to be enough to support the city. That's the main reason why a lot of Mead Valley and all that have not been able to incorporate, is because they don't have enough tax base. It's very low, population is very low, and so on. It's very spread out. And so by this way, by using a larger portion, more denser areas of the southern part of Riverside and joining with them, you can create a new city and give them all those benefits and so on. So he's going to be out here to talk about that. It should be very interesting. So if you know anyone that lives in the county area, Mead Valley, Pahalco, any of those areas down there south of here, invite them to that October meeting. So that should be very important. So, any other questions before we end tonight?
Can you go back one slide, please?
One slide. No, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna ask you if that map was on the website.
It's not on the
Yeah,
website.
Orangewood.
Yeah, we didn't want to piss the city off that quick.
Yeah. We've got, we're on too many lists as it is,
Yeah.
Fortunately, people like the chief put up with us.
Yeah. He lives in the area, though. You live in Orangewood, police chief, right?
Right.
Well, it's funny, I created this name Orangewood thinking there's got to be a bunch of Orangewoods around. I mean, how common is that? I looked it up, there isn't a city in the country named Orangewood.
Yeah. There are not very many oranges in a deed.
And I didn't want it to be the name of one of the communities expanded, because then that gets confusing, right? So I thought orange would fit, right? Oranges used to be a big citrus thing here, and woods, and so, anyway, that's how we came up with that.
Do you know of any of the retail stores that are going in near LA Fitness? I know they're going to be supposedly opening in August, but do you know the names of any that are going to be up? That, be a potential.
We don't know of all of them.
We don't know any. We know one nail salon who's going in. But yeah, I sent 2 emails to Michelle Rubin, who owns the property.
Who you on?
We don't know yet who's coming.
I think she's still a little upset about Kmart.
Is that still in litigation, the Kmart?
No, it's out of litigation. We said a year ago, they were proposing to do 280 townhouse units with garages, which was great, because they had 400 parking spaces for the units, but we have not been able to get an update from the city on that since then. So we have no idea what's going on with that project. None. It'd be a great place for a remote police station, too.
Yes. Good idea.
In fact, the Kmart, there was an old Kmart in Redlands, they did just that. They turned it into the police department. So,
Good idea.
but we've got 2 empty warehouses on Alexander, too. We can get one of those for what, 30 million? 200,000 square feet, plus put a mezzanine in for another 100,000 square feet, a 300,000. We could put a remote police station, we could put a planning department in there, we could do training there, we could do a whole bunch of stuff there.
City Hall.
A lot cheaper than building a new building, right? So, all right, we want to thank the chief for coming. Chief's wife, where are you? Okay. We sympathize with you having to listen to it every night. So we want to thank you for bringing it here tonight. So.
And also thanks to all the candidates.
Yep.
And takes a lot to run, and we appreciate you running.
Yeah. It's a lot of work running for office. We really take our hats off to all of you for putting in the time for that, you know, the dedication to do that. It's a lot of work. I mean, we did a lot of work on the Measure Z thing, and I can just imagine it's times, 500 times that. So we want to thank you for that. Okay, so we'll see you all next month. Anything comes up, email us. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for all your hard work.